This is our August 28th meeting, and we're welcoming everyone here. Would like to start out with a few housekeeping items, if I could. We have a few bills that need to be paid. I'd like to get a motion to approve the bill for $179.30 to the Community Advocate for the August 28th, 2023 legal notices.
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Next bills for $42.78 to WB Mason for office supplies. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Second.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So moved. Thank you. Moving on to the 6:30 part of our public hearings. First on the agenda, this is a continued hearing. This is to hear the appeal of Guillermo Garcia of 248 Spring Street, Shrewsbury, Mass. For a special permit to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 6, Table 1, to convert a single-family dwelling to a two-family dwelling without changing the outward appearance upon property located at 147-151 South Street in the Residence A zoning district. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 29, Plot 06100. Like, you could ask you to state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, my name is Guillermo Garcia.
Good evening.
Carolyn Henderson, attorney for Mr. Garcia.
Good evening. We could start with an update from you, please.
Okay. I have had a chance.
Oh, excuse me, procedural. We have two members here who were not at the meeting the last meeting. They both have read and viewed all of the public hearing memorabilia, and they will both sign a Mullins agreement, so just wanted to let you know that. So you can proceed.
Started taking down the back.
Are we good with that?
Yep.
Want me to explain?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. I've had a chance to talk to Mr. Garcia since he came back to the country. One thing he wants to make absolutely clear is that when he bought this property, he bought it believing it was a two-family. And he did that because of the town records that show us at a two-family, and I have looked up some certificates of municipal liens, and they also designate it as a two-family. So that was his understanding. The two-family, he thought, was the main building and the apartment in the back. That's what he thought the two-family was. It was a misunderstanding, but that's what he thought it was. He was out of the country when renovation started to happen on that garage, which is where this other apartment is. And he realizes now that that was a misunderstanding on his part, that the apartment had nothing to do with it being a two-family. He went and applied to convert the main building to a two-family. He has stopped all work on the garage, and he is going to put it back to the way it was. He understands that is not a unit to be considered. So he is going forward with the original application in that the main house he is applying as a two-family.
All right, so we have a couple members of our town departments. Louise, I'm going to throw it off to you. Is there any additional information from your perspective that we need to understand?
No, I don't think so. And it's clear that they stated that the garage will be going back to a garage, and they're only seeking the special permit for the two-family dwelling within the main house.
Okay. All right. So we have Ms. Sheehan here. Patty, well, I would like to open it up to our other board members, but I think it's appropriate to start, if we may, with understanding how the town, I believe there was a site visit. If you could talk to us about that and give us some more information, that would be helpful.
Sure. So Patty Sheehan, Zoning Enforcement Officer and Building Commissioner, and what you stated, Attorney Hennessy, is the way that we all expected that you would move forward. So when we went to the property, meeting town officials, inspectors, all the inspectors, fire department and planning department on August 14th, and we reviewed the property with Mr. Garcia there and reviewed all of both the accessory structure and the main structure, and found that, you know, the ZBA application to have the special permit for two-family is an appropriate application, and obviously reviewing the decision that would be written with Louise and the planning department, that the garage would be addressed, and we will have a building permit to restore the garage back to a garage/storage, and that all will be taken care of with a building permit. So one permit for each structure on the property.
Okay. Let's start with questions from the board. Peter?
What's the timing on the garage being restored to its original condition?
Well, this all depending of the, we have to go back and talk to the building department to see what are the requirements to put the garage back. We need demo permits and so forth, so I need to get with the building department to get the logistics, what it will take to put the garage the way it was. So timeframes, it all depends of the permits and also what's going on with the house, because the house has been sitting over there for almost 4 months, that we couldn't do anything. So the financial impact in our end is big, so we have to coordinate with that. So it's gonna be, we have to invest some money to put the garage back the way it was. So we have to coordinate that, but I will say after we get the building permit, we can start to put it back at the same time we build the house, we make modifications in the house.
So you'd plan to do those things at the same time?
Well, I will prioritize the house and then the garage, but it will be the same project.
So you would convert the house to a two-family before you would return the garage to its original state?
I would say I will do in parallel, so I won't say one, the other, but I will prioritize the operation on the house.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand what your attorney was saying. You purchased the house believing it was already a two-family, but you believed that was the case because you believed that there was a space in the garage that was an apartment?
Well, what happened is somebody was living in the garage. In the garage, it has a unit. It was made back then, like, I don't know how many years ago. So it has sewer, water, bathroom, and kitchen. So my assumption that was another unit.
Okay.
But we find out later that it wasn't a unit by the town. It was not recorded. So no was recorded. It was a unit back then.
Okay. And did the seller represent that to you, that it was a two-family, or you assumed that because you saw the apartment in the garage?
I assumed that.
Okay.
Nothing to do with it.
So no one represented that to you?
Say it again?
No one told you that it was a two-family
No.
when you
So
bought
we
it?
asked the question at the closing, and the attorney confirmed it was a two-family.
That it
But
was?
We learned
I wasn't at the closing, but
No.
that's what he told me.
Okay. So at the closing, the seller confirmed that it was a two-family to you?
yes.
Okay.
Anyway, so recently we were going down to the assess department with party, and we find out that it was a two-family all this time. So they call it something 109 and 104. I guess 109 means it's one unit, 104 is a separate unit. So all these years, I don't know how many years back then, like 20 years, it was a two-family.
Okay. So it's been a legal two-family for the last 20 years?
So to answer that, I'll give you a description. So we did all research very thoroughly with the assessor, and it is labeled as a 104. A 104 for the assessor's data says that there was two-family in one structure. So there was 2 units in one structure. As we understand, right,
Yes.
when we went to talk with the assessor, a 109 is 2 dwelling units in 2 separate structures, and it was never coded as a 109, but it has been a 104. So at one time, 2 dwelling units existed in that main structure, the principal dwelling, according to the assessor.
Okay.
Now, the assessor, when we talked to the assessor, she hasn't been here that long, and we only have the records from somebody that went out from the assessor's office over the years and documented that. So we don't know when that was changed to a 104, and we don't know the details of the 104, but it was documented as a two-family in the main structure.
In the main structure going back a long time?
A while.
Okay.
A while, but I don't know how long.
And also they have pictures of the garage existing over there, but it's not part of the record for some reason. But they
Okay.
have pictures of the 2 buildings
Okay.
on the all records. So
Right. I guess so the previous owner, though, paid taxes on it as though it were a two-family based on the assessment for a long time.
Based on the assessor's records, yes.
Okay, that's helpful.
And also the mortgage was done as a two-family, so we have to sign a multifamily mortgage
Okay,
when we did the closing.
okay. That's all for me for now.
Ann?
Good evening. I have a couple questions about the means of egress, the proposed means of egress for the second floor unit. They're not very clear on the plans, so I was hoping you could
Okay.
provide some further
Yeah,
clarification.
so basically we have stairs coming from the back for the second floor, and also one from the front. So it's gonna be stairs back and forth by building code.
So are you building new stairs?
Not existing, they are there.
Okay, so will there be any construction with regard to the exterior of the property?
No, the exterior, no, we're not gonna touch the exterior, not at all.
So there's existing interior stairs?
Yes.
That will provide
Yes.
two means of egress?
So we're just gonna modify some of the rooms. So they have the house have right now like 10 rooms. So we gotta demo some walls and modify the layout basically inside. That's basically what we're gonna do. It's gonna be very minor. It's gonna be maybe 10% of the operations inside, modification of the walls. That's about it. Basically, just put a kitchen on the second floor and modify the bathroom at the fifth floor. That's about it. Because they have the stairs on the back, and we can open the stairs to the grass for the second floor in the front, and that's gonna be it. Put a few walls on the fifth floor, and that's gonna be all the modifications from the building. And now we, per the visit for the building department, we have to put all the electrical back to code. So electrical and water by code now. That's something we gotta do.
Okay, and on the application, the reasons for the request for the special permit are blank. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Can you just say that again, please?
So on the application,
Yes.
there's a section where you can fill out the reasons you're requesting the special permit and why it would meet the criteria required.
Okay,
That
so-
section is just blank.
Okay, so I knew that we can go for the special permit because zoning is allowed to it. And when I start to do the logistics of the application, I find out the house was already a two-family by the records. So I, assuming they're saying it's already a two-family, I need a special permit to put it back as a two-family. So somebody put the house back as a single family, as a function, but by the records it's two-family. So I thought it was very straightforward, special permits. Like, I asked in the special permit for something that's already in records. And it takes all the way down to here.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now.
Evan?
I guess I have a couple questions more for the board and actually for Patty. If this on the tax assessors was already a two-family being taxed as a two-family, is a special permit needed?
Yes, because we have verified, meaning town staff that went to do the site visit, and also talking with Mr. Garcia, that this is a single-family house. When we went to the property, it is a single-family house. So over time, and this happens over time, someone, a prior owner or someone along the way, did some interior work, converting a two-family to a single-family, and then single-family to a two-family, and that does happen. But we, the building inspector's office, does not have any building permit history on this. So the assessors, at one time, somebody did get into the property, documented as a two-family, and they're going to tax what they see. So our town assessor, Ruth Anderson, and I, we sit side by side where they tax what they see, and the building inspector's office verifies if there is a permit for what they see. So it doesn't mean that it is done with a permit. And so that's why now, whether it's a single-family or two-family, the zoning bylaw allows a pre-existing structure before 1967, predating our zoning bylaw, in certain residential zoning districts to get a special permit to use it as a two-family without changing the outward appearance, as you read. So Yeah, but the assessor taxes what they see, whether it has a building permit or not.
So, so even though they're already taxing it and for town purposes, it already is a two-family, they still need the special permit to restore it to a two-family, even though the previous owners made it a one-family.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They do, because we've established that it's being used as a single family. So
Okay.
you first start here, then once the decisions are made here, we move forward with the building permits based on this decision.
Okay.
If I can add something to it, I guess it's very important, question you have, that was my first question when I started the process. And that was my confusion, say, okay, I'm applying for a convert, existing two-family house in two-family, and then I was, okay, so the garage was a unit, and the house was another unit. So I said, okay, I understand. So that was all my confusion at the beginning, because I have to apply to convert a two-family, which is already a two-family. So, and that was all the confusion it gets me to here.
Nope, understood. And I guess my next question, since it is a single family being converted to a two-family, is the fire department going to have a say in the construction and any fire barriers or any fire safety that's needed?
Yes, so the deputy fire chief was with us at our inspection, and so he's aware of the permit application, because by building code, the fire department has to review all of our permits. So it's by building code that we have a 1-hour fire separation between dwelling units, and it's by building code and the fire department that all of the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors will be brought up to the current code.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
David?
So it's been operating as a two-family, and it really is a single-family? No, it's,
Other way around.
okay. Let me rephrase. Let me start over. It was, prior to you having it, it was apparently a two-unit property. There was the main structure.
Public comments will happen after. Go ahead, David.
So as you know
Is
it,
a question?
yeah, the question is for you. So as you know it, as you bought it, as you did everything to do that, you saw it as the primary structure was a single unit and the garage was another unit.
Per se, yes. I wasn't, it wasn't clear for me how the house was a two-family. So
Yep.
I learned in the process how the house was a two-family. And
Okay.
again, it's still, it's a puzzle. What is a two-family? Because I guess by the record, it's a two-family, but the house, it was a single family. So I really, at this point, I still don't understand how it's a two-family.
Yep. When you took ownership of the property, were there occupants in any of the units?
No.
Okay. For the primary structure that you desire to be a two-unit structure, assuming the garage is, as per the town, restored back to garage and storage only, how do you see parking for both of the units on the property? What is that
Okay.
going to look like?
All right, so we have plenty, it's more than 1.5 acre on the lot, so we have plenty of room for parking. And also, the house itself it was laid out as a two-family, because it has the first question that we have, the egress, it has stairs at the both entrance. So the house is not too much to do to the house to put it back as a two-family. So that was my idea. I said, okay, this house has so many rooms for a single family, and the layout of the house is for two families. So that was what my idea, to put it back as a two-family.
Okay. Do you have a planned or intended number of parking spaces per unit or total for the property?
I guess, I don't know if the code, they have to have it 2 per unit.
1.5
1.5,
parking
yeah, so-
spots
and we
or
have- I
or
can-
tenant space,
Yeah.
or dwelling unit?
It's plenty of room to put it back on the premise. You can put it 10 parking spots.
I have no further questions.
Yeah, most of my questions have really been answered. I'm curious about the address, being the 140, it's a,
That's
147 through 150.
yeah, 147 through 151. Any idea, I'm just trying to put the pieces together of history. Do you think one was the garage? it's reflected of the two-family status presumably before this?
No, I don't. So we do have a lot of properties that are hyphenated numbers, and sometimes, although this one doesn't have a lot of frontage, sometimes if you have a lot of frontage, they'll have the hyphenated numbers because it has potential to be subdivided again, and then you could take the numbers and you leave some room to assign numbers in between. I don't exactly know why this one has the hyphenated numbers, but it always, or currently being on record as a two-family with the assessor, you know, the hyphenated numbers, like, for example, one unit afterwards, when this is done, could be 147, the other unit could be 149. The assessor is going to adjust the unit numbers once this becomes a two-family by permit going forward.
Okay.
Can I add something to that? So, the unit or the garage per se, it has the same construction specs than the house. So the unit over there has been there forever, and it has sewer, electrical, and all utilities in there as a unit. Just, I don't know if that was 147 or not, but I just have to let you know that the unit, it has everything for an apartment over there, and it was as done for all the building aspects. It was done at the same time as the house. It has been there forever.
You were presumably at the meeting when all the town officials were there?
Yes, I opened the house for them, yes. I just
Okay.
came back day before, and I opened everything for them.
Okay, okay. And just to be clear, so building department was there, fire, zoning, or planning?
Yeah.
So there was a whole host of,
The plumbing and gas inspector, electrical inspector, 2 assistant building inspectors, myself, Louise and Chris McGoldrick, the 2 planning department people, the deputy fire chief, were all there.
and you were at the meeting the whole time?
Yes.
It's been a fun
we had a
meeting.
I
big
was so
crowd.
happy to be there.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
couldn't wait.
yeah, okay, all right. Well, I think I'm ready for some public comments,
Can
if,
I ask just a follow-up?
sure?
And this is for y'all. I'm trying to place this sort of on the spectrum. We've had a couple of different situations where we've had two families or two-family conversions come before us. I think several of them have been situations where at some point in the past, a legal single family was changed without permits to be a two-family and then sold as a two-family even though it wasn't legally a two-family, and then people sought relief. Here, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, at some point, it may have originally even been built as a two-family in one structure. It was converted back to a single family, and then you bought it understanding it was a two-family, but based on the fact that an apartment existed. But to get to the sort of nub of it, was it legally a two-family to begin with? In other words, were there permits for it to be a two-family at some point in the past, ever?
So the permit history doesn't go back that far.
Yeah.
From the assessor's records, it's 1947 is when it was constructed. But if you look at the construction type, if you stand outside and look at the construction type, it does look like it was a two-family at one time.
Yeah.
And then, this often happens, right, depending on the families living there. They do work based on what their needs are for how big their families are, and it just evolves
Right.
over time. And eventually when, new property owners come that's when we figure things out.
Right.
And try to figure out how to move forward. This, whether it was a two-family or a single-family, right now in the principal structure, right now going forward, the special permit is a valid request because that's what our zoning bylaw allows.
Yeah.
And if this is approved going forward, there's methods that will meet the building code requirements for all of the life safety things that we have to do.
Right. I guess the reason I ask is that I know that in the past in these situations, a lot of the public comment has centered around the idea that it didn't seem fair to allow someone to go forward with a two-family if it was illegally converted to be a two-family in the past, sort of reap the benefits of that misdeed. It doesn't really sound like that's the case here. And I just sort of note that.
It's almost opposite
Yeah.
of what we've had in front of us
Right.
before.
So that's all for me for now.
Okay. Any other comments from the board before we go into public comments? Okay, this is a public hearing. If we have anyone in the Audience that wishes to be heard, please step up to the mic, identify yourself, please, with your name and your address.
Peter Gray, who's at 139 and my father owns 143, which is the adjoining property. I'm here to take and give them a hand because I do have some of their building plans of when they moved in and it was a single-family house, 26 by 26, and in the 1960s, they put an addition on the back side of it, another 26 by 20. And that's when their family, there was 4 boys at that time in the house. They were getting too big for it, and there was only one single bathroom on the upstairs floor. There was no two-family, and they just sold it, and there has never been another family in there. So they'll come up and tell you how they've been, I guess, dealing with it. But I do have plans, or order plans, that they can show you how the house was originally and what they added on, if that makes a difference. I've only got 5 copies. I didn't know how many people were here.
If you have 5 copies and you're willing to leave them with us, we can accept them. We feel like that would be helpful.
I'm Grace Adams. We're at 20 Tuxedo Road, Worcester, Mass.
If you could just wait 1 minute, let's just get
apologize.
this. Okay, so,
And to clarify, these are the plans for which address now?
For the house.
For this house,
147.
147.
147,
Okay.
yes. So this is second floor. I know it's a little bit high, but the prints are so old.
oh wow, these are old.
Right, that's why I said they had to print them in color so you could really see them. So that's the second floor, and then this was the first floor. So if you, this was the original house, this is the addition, and the same here, this was the original house, this is the addition on this side.
Have you seen this?
No.
That was the hallway, so the addition is right here, actually. This, they had to make this bedroom, if I maybe backed around, but made it smaller because that was the closets, and they made the hall to get to the master bedroom down the back.
Okay,
All right?
thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jim Adams. I grew up in the house. My parents bought it in 56 or 57 as a one-family house. It had 1 bathroom in it. In the 70s, my grandfather came to live in the garage. So it should never have been a 2-family house coding. It should have been a 109, but somehow it became a 104. So the house itself was never a 2-family house. There was an apartment in the garage. And I think that was just a mistake. It never got rectified. I guess we've been paying taxes on a 2-family house until now, but it never said anything on the bills or anything. So they just paid the tax bills. So I just wanted to clear up the fact that the house itself was never a 2-family house.
Just to be clear, were you the seller of the house when Mr. Garcia purchased the house?
Yes,
Just-
and my 3 brothers.
Okay, the most recent purchase, you were the sellers, you were the
Yes.
buyer? Okay.
Again, going along with kind of the, it's taken a village. We've all had different pieces of the puzzle. My husband and I came down this morning to town hall. We spoke to a few people, and it really kind of, I think, came down to exactly that. It was coded wrong in the 70s, somewhere along the line. Bylaws were such at that time. There wasn't a building inspector at that time. You know, it was just a conglomeration of things. My father-in-law remarried after his mother, who is still alive, which is the testimony, Nancy Adams, she's 95. But that was one of the letters that we provided for you. Clear as clear as a bell, she remembers everything, of course. And that's why there's that separation. That's what that is on that foundation in the house. Old versus new, adding on a family room, the back end of the house, another bathroom down, that sort of thing.
Right.
The garage itself, again, Grandpa came. He had a little independence. Never hook up for a stove in there. It was just more or less a cinder block foundation, the back end of a 2-car garage, give Grandpa a little independence. Half bath. It is still hooked up to a leach field. There is no city sewer in there. So if
The
this-
garage.
Correct. So if this ever comes to light, once that was where we got most of the paperwork with the two-family house was crossed off on some of the paperwork that we found when we were going through all paperwork after all these years. You know, had we kept it, thinking we had to prove this, unfortunately, we'd have a lot more to go on. But the water and sewer came through South Street in 1995, and there was an independent study that came through that they had to do an appraisal. We have a, 30-page appraisal format, all the paperwork from the city. Yes, it does say two-family. When you're not looking for it, you see it, of course, So then, we found that two-family was crossed off on that. So whether that never got back to the city, because this was like a separate appraisal just for the water people when they were coming through. So now that had been defunct. He was only really, 5 years Grandpa lived there?
Yeah,
If
not
that,
even.
if
4.
that. So when the city sewer came through, of course, they didn't attach the garage. You're not gonna go the 300 feet back to the garage.
Yeah.
So if anything ever comes of that, you don't want that leach field being touched again after 30 years. The water comes as a separate entity in through the house, which again is not right from the street. It's an offshoot from the house. So again, that's not, shouldn't be plumbed, shouldn't be electrified. If they have to remediate that garage, my concern is, are they gonna take back they increased the size of the garage, doubled it, and put a new foundation in. It's diverted water, which is causing trouble for the neighbors. That's really why we're here too, because we sold it on the premise. Our realtor was adamant that she was not gonna list it. That's why there were no pictures of the garage, other than the outside, for proximity with the realtor. Whether paperwork would have changed hands again, did something got missed again? My mother-in-law had divorced his dad, in the early 80s. New wife came. She ran everything from 84 to 2022 when she died. Again, it was sharp as tacks. We thought they were doing everything right. Whether she missed the two-family thing again, I mean, yes, she got all these taxes. We have no problem with that. I mean, that was an error that should have been caught, but whatever. But that shouldn't mean that the house is either originally was turned back. It never was. Two-family in the sense that there was that garage apartment for a very short time. Again, no electricity, leach field, water leach coming off the house. So that's that. But the house itself now, if that's gonna be a two-family, and you say you can't outwardly change the outside of the house, if you have to have two egresses from both apartments, there's porches on front and back that have one door. So where does the change get made? Does everybody share one door out ultimately, or do you each have to have your very own separate egress from two different places? The back staircase was so narrow, when my mother-in-law needed to have a chair put in, one of those ride up and down, they couldn't believe how steep it was, and they couldn't believe how narrow it was. They were able to get the chair in for her, but that back staircase is not to code either. So that's just to access the second floor. There's no room really between that and the back door. So again, is that outwardly gonna change the outside of the house because it's done on the inside of the porch? I don't know. And then the front, same thing. Porch on the front.
Clarification point, no changes can be made to the exterior in this application, is that correct?
So with the exception of means of egress, because you have to meet the building code for means of egress from each dwelling unit. So that is an exception, a landing and a stair down from first floor, second floor can be added. That is the only outward appearance. You could change window, siding, roof, all of that, but no additions except for means of egress.
Okay, all right.
Can I add something to it?
Yes.
So the existing appearance of the house is not gonna be changed because it has a porch at the front and porch at the back, and all the alteration is gonna be within inside of the existing exterior. So no exterior is gonna be changed.
All right.
Also, there's a full cellar and a full attic.
Yep.
This makes me nervous. We've already tried to put an apartment on there. You've got 2 floors they're trying to make into a two-family. Feasibly, there could be 4 families living in that house if the town knew it. But how often do you go into houses? How often do you check them? Once they're there and established, now you need four more egresses, if you're gonna do that, you know, where does it stop? Where's the benefit to have a two-family house in that neighborhood? South Street is extremely busy. They share a driveway as it is with a neighbor, so there's egress issues there already. I just don't understand. And does Mr. Garcia have any other permits open in the town or with you, or he would know the building? I don't understand why he didn't know to get a building permit. I mean, that right away is a red flag.
Sure.
Okay, please take all that into consideration.
Thank you.
My mother-in-law is willing to talk to me. I don't know how much hearsay is good in a situation like this.
Well, we appreciate the letter.
But thank you for your time with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I just make a comment, Madam Chair?
Yep.
So that's extremely helpful, because I think what it helps everybody understand is what the historical use of the structure has been, and that's pretty good proof, I think, that it seems like the second family aspect was this piece in the garage for your grandfather, as opposed to it being that individual building actually used by two families. From like a level setting standpoint, though, where I think that throws us back to is just that under the zoning bylaw, this is section 6, table 1, a one-family dwelling that existed at the time of the adoption of the bylaw, which this building is, can be converted to a two-family dwelling with a special permit. So all that's really before the board to decide is whether there's a nuisance by virtue of noise, vibration, traffic, unsightliness, or something else against the public good. The fact that the house has never been used as a two-family before, I think, is relevant to that, but I think otherwise the history, from what it sounds like now, is kind of water under the bridge. So I just sort of throw that out there in terms of my thinking on it.
Yep, that is helpful. All right, anyone else wish to be heard on this matter?
I'll come back up again, I guess. So I had the question about the water problem,
You,
which.
state your name
Peter Gray
again for the record,
Sorry,
please.
139, on 143. We do have the problem with the addition that he put on the back, and it now takes and causes the water to come into my yard and into the garages and so forth, which have flooded a few times, and now I have to zip over every time it rains, which is tough. But I have that problem, and after he's supposed to be a builder, he knows he's supposed to get permits, so he's done this illegally, doing everything he's already done to the property. How can you even think about giving him another permit, a special permit on top of that, and thanking him for doing what he has to the town? I just don't understand how that can possibly happen. You know, it's affecting us big time at the moment until he takes care of the problem and gets the water to go back the other way and cuts back in the bank and in the inside of the garage and so forth. So I just don't understand how you can even think about letting somebody that's already who's supposed to know the law, who does know the law, because he's already been building houses in town, supposedly, can actually do this and basically snub his nose to everybody in town and then take and say, I need a special permit to do this. I just don't understand how that can possibly happen. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gray, I had one question. Thank you very much for providing, yeah, you,
Okay, thank you.
sorry, oh, yeah. No, I have a question for you, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you for providing these
Sure.
plans. Can you tell us where you found them?
The Adams gave them to me. They actually dug them up out from their
Okay,
mother.
from their personal records?
Yes,
Okay,
from their
great.
mother's records.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, Rebecca Duhame, 148 South Street. I have a question, I guess it kind of builds on what Peter Gray was just saying. If I can ask Ms. Henderson or Mr. Garcia to clarify, because I'm not sure I noted this down correctly. Ms. Henderson talked through a timeline of purchasing the property with the understanding it was two-family. And I myself just learned about this distinction between property assessor deeming it to be two-family based on observation, as opposed to legally what it was set up to be used as from a building permitting perspective. So I understand the confusion there. Mr. Garcia said that he looked at the property, saw one house, one garage with the dwelling previously established in the garage, so he understood it to be two-family on that basis. Ms. Henderson talked about after purchasing the property, Mr. Garcia was out of the country, returned to find that, I guess, members of your company working without supervision had gone ahead and done work to improve the quality of the dwelling unit in the garage. And then, did I understand this correctly, Ms. Henderson? Upon returning to the country after prolonged absence, Mr. Garcia discovered this work and was surprised and then found out that it was not going to be allowed to be used as a dwelling unit in the garage, and then embarked on applying for this special permit to convert the house into a two-dwelling. Is that, did I misunderstood that?
No.
That's not quite
The
the
Okay.
logistic is, the logistics is nothing go. Chronologically, it didn't went that way. So I applied for the special permit like, I don't know, back in February, May? May? So,
April, well, you submitted the building permit application, you started loading plans on April 17th according to the,
all right, so
Building permit site.
you know better.
yeah,
You know.
7 days after you purchased the
Right.
property.
Through the chair, please. if you
I'm
don't
sorry,
mind.
through the chair.
Go ahead. Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
were you going to answer a question?
Oh, sorry, I got confused. Can you ask me the question again, please?
Yeah, so I'm just looking for clarity on the timeline because the
Right.
way it was relayed, I understood it through Madam Chair to you, Mr. Garcia and Ms. Henderson, that you purchased the property, understanding it was two-family, one dwelling being the main house, one dwelling being the garage, that you left the country and staff under your supervision or not thought that, okay, we have the charter to go fix up this garage because it really doesn't look too great right now. It needs to be spiffed up before anybody's going to want to live there. That you returned to the country, discovered this had happened, also at that time had a conversation with, I believe, the building department about it not being a legal use of the garage. And at that point embarked on making application to convert the single-family house into a two-family house.
Okay.
Is that understanding correct?
Not really. So, when I bought the house and I find out there was another unit on the garage, I went back, I came back because, to answer the question to Peter, I'm a builder, so I know my first step is come to the city and find out what is required to modify the building. So I came and it was confusion back then, and I guess it's confusion today. What is the garage? So I guess with all the input that we have today, so the garage is another unit, the garage is another unit, so I guess still. So that back then I have information, I said, okay, I'm gonna apply right away. I applied right away for a special permit. So it's not that I decided to apply for the building, for the special permit afterwards. All the time I applied for the special permit. My application at the beginning with the building department for a special permit from the first time. So it's not that I changed my mind afterwards. And yes, I was absent from here, so I don't know if you guys knew, I have an issue with my application at the beginning. It was delayed for some reason 2 months. So I came back to the building department. I spoke with them saying that I need to do something because the house had been sitting there for a long time and I need to work on the house. So they allowed me, building department allowed me to do the demo in the house, just the house. Say, okay, go ahead and start some do demo in the house. So I spoke to my guys, say, okay, we start to work in the house. They went, it wasn't specified for them. There was no, we cannot do it on the garage, but the garage has a lot of leaks and it has a lot of, as Peter says, a lot of water in there. And still today is a lot of water in the garage that I need to do something about it. So they decided to work in the garage too because they saw like, we can do this. But the only authorization that I have for the building department was for the house. That was a mistake and I accept that. That's clear for me.
Thank you.
So-
Anything further?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Garcia. So do I understand correctly that, given that from what's evident on the building permit website, Mr. Garcia, it appears, began the process of uploading plans and proposals to convert the main dwelling from a single family to a two-family dwelling. The first date I saw on there was April 17th, and then there's a later set of plans, I believe April 27th, an updated set of plans. But is it not the case that with making this application for a special permit, while assuming that the dwelling in the garage at the time was a legitimate dwelling, that Mr. Garcia was really going down the path of establishing 3 dwellings on this property? Is that in fact, what you intended,
Sure
Mr.
that
Garcia,
that's
through the
pertinent.
chairman?
No, I don't think that's the case. I mean, it was a puzzle from the beginning, was 2 units, and it's still today, so my application was to do 2 units. And at some point, I have the conversation with the building department, say, should I leave the house, and actually with the zoning also say, okay, we leave the house 1 unit, and the garage is on a unit. So that was an option at one point too, from my perspective. So it's not that I was about to make it 3 units, it's like, I didn't, for the complex of this house, we didn't have the right information decision per se, that I what to do with it. And me, I was open to say, okay, if the house is 1 unit, be it. 1 unit the house, the garage another unit, I work in the garage. So until today, it's like that. It's not like I wanna make it, and like say, I wanna make it like the basement and the attic as another unit. I know the code, and I know I cannot do that. So it's not like I'm gonna make it like 5 storage building over there. It's like at this moment, I was open to do whatever it takes to have 2 units per the mortgage that I signed at the closing. So
Thank you.
I wasn't intention for me to make it 3 units.
May I continue speaking?
Yes.
So as you heard, a number of us came here to the original hearing on July 31st, and I appreciate that, I myself included. I'm sure we sounded like a bunch of NIMBYs who really enjoy South Street the way it is. I mean, it's challenging. The traffic is horrible and getting worse. It's going to get worse when the Subaru dealership opens up down the street. It's dangerous. We are concerned about the congestion. But since then, we've learned that Shrewsbury, just as other municipalities in Massachusetts, are facing pressure from the state because the state has a housing crisis. So there are compelling social reasons to seek to add additional dwelling units wherever it is reasonable and practical. However, thinking about the people that would be housed in a multi-dwelling unit, if there were 3 dwelling units, for instance, on 147, 151 South Street, which seemed to be the path that this looked to be on at some point, whether intentionally or accidentally, frankly, it's kind of concerning that however it came to pass, under whose supervision or non-supervision, but that after Mr. Garcia purchased the house on April 10th of 2023, I'm just reading from the site visit letter. It was confirmed that the detached garage has been converted into a dwelling unit, and an addition was constructed in the rear of the garage without the required building permits. Additional electrical and plumbing was also completed without the requiring building permits and parking paved. So no permits, no inspections. Are we really okay with scenarios in which someone can take it on their own initiative to build unpermitted, uninspected building units to house among our most vulnerable citizens and newcomers to the state of Massachusetts? I don't know. I'm very disturbed by that. I mean, I'm all for, I personally have been to housing rallies looking for support from the state for the home rule petition so that municipalities can add additional taxes on high-value real estate transactions to help fund affordable housing. I think this is really important for us to address. I just question whether, is it best if someone has a track record in a particular instance of, however it happened, something happened here that went way out of bounds of what's legal and appropriate and safe for the people who might live there, and continuing to let this go down the path of turning into a multi-dwelling unit of any flavor. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add something to it?
Certainly.
Okay, so I built it in town. I live in Shrewsbury, so I perfectly understand that I want for the town to be have the best for us, for our kids. I'm so happy to live here. I love the town, and I would like to see the town keep going in the way it goes, making all this new construction and everything, move the town forward. And also in South Street, the only thing, or the most I want to do is to put the beautiful building over there, to fix the building is in bad shape. The garage, it was in very bad shape, and I tried to fix the garage to make it look better, and also the house is gonna look better. So for the neighborhood, my input in there is not gonna be more than helping to increase the value of the properties. Because right now, the building needs a roof, it needs a lot of stuff, and I'm willing to put the building back in good shape. I mean, somebody there will live there, and actually the houses around it, I mean, they're beautiful, and I also want to make the neighborhood keep beautiful, and I want to keep the house for a long time. So I'm willing to make the house looks good, and also to create a good neighborhood, because I'm living here and it's part of my neighborhood. So I don't want to ruin a neighborhood. I want to improve a neighborhood. So basically, I mean, that's also a good input to make this project to happen, because that otherwise the house is gonna be sitting there and it's gonna look bad, and it's gonna be, I mean, grass is not be cut, or it's gonna not have a good impact on the area. And I'm not planning to put a garage over there. I'm planning to have a nice, decent house with a good tenants. Tenants will be classified. The tenants, they show the good people. I'm not gonna put somebody there just to rent, because I'm living in town. I don't want my town also to start to go down.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to be heard? Step forward, and if you could identify us, you give us your name and address, please.
Yes, Darrell Henry, 131 South Street. Probably 25 years ago, I had 2 buildings taken down on my property and a garage put up. Now, Mr. Garcia is a builder. I used a local builder. The foundation was poured, everything was dug. In the addition that was done presently, there's no foundation. Everything is done on grade, not quite the way it's supposed to be done. How are things going to be done inside the house is my question. I understand that the building inspector and everybody who's done a fantastic job will continue to do the same. But once things are closed, where's it going to go? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard?
Yeah, I have one question. I
you,
realize
state your name for the
David Henry,
record?
123 South Street.
Thank you.
I realize that this was just a rough draft that was taken off the town's website. This is the zoning board's findings. My question is, according to this, 5 people already voted on this before this meeting was even had. So how can, that's according to this, ma'am, it's what it says.
There is a note right up on both sides that this is just a draft and used.
I understand it's just,
under all
I understand
conditions.
it's just a draft, but according to this, it was a 5-0 vote.
Nope,
So, it's right here, second page.
it's a draft. It's not meant for any sort of legal purposes. It's not stamped in at the clerk. It was not voted on. There's no,
There's
Okay.
been no official vote. I can promise you that.
Or
Okay,
unofficial
no, it's
vote.
just when I saw this, like I said, it already shows 5-0 vote. So if it's a rough draft, then to me, the decision was kind of already made. So, okay, thank you.
We'll take that offline.
Can I make a point of clarification?
Sure.
So just so everyone knows, this meeting is subject to the open meeting law, and to echo what the chair has said, that, and what Ms. O'Neill has said, that is just a template that I believe is put on the website for ease of future drafting when we have multiple decisions that need to be drafted. I agree it's confusing, and perhaps
Like I
it
said,
should
it says
come
rough
off,
draft,
but,
and they can
you know,
change
just
it
in
as
terms of
they wish.
the open meeting law, you know, everything has been conducted, we have not conversed, so, but thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Could I ask, is this additional information that will help us with our decision?
Yes.
Please state your name for the
Grace-
record.
Grace Adams, 20 Tuxedo, we're in Worcester. Again, my husband's family lived there. I have both the building applications that we picked up today in Town Hall about the upgrade of the property when we had the siding, windows, the chimney was completely torn down and rebuilt in 2007. Siding, garage, everything was fixed in 2011. I'm here because the outward appearance of South Street, the roof was put on, I believe, in 2005. Yes, it's a 17-year-old, 18-year-old roof, doing my math. But outwardly, there is nothing that needs to be done to that property. That property is beautiful. If your assessors were out there, you know there was nothing. There was never any water in that garage. The back of the garage had a 6-inch rise. There was a huge stone that my father-in-law had put that there. Nothing was in there but squirrels and the 70s paneling. That was all that was left. That was why there was absolutely no mention made of that at all in selling that house. putting lipstick on a pig, we all know that. That's not the case here. It's, like I said, that, keep in mind that leach field is still active, the water's not proper, and there was no 220 line out there. So how he converted all that, being a builder, again, concern, okay? But thank you.
Thank you.
My mother-in-law went to a lot of trouble to keep that house beautiful.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Xi Jiang from 140 South Street. I'm sure all the professionals at present are aware of this point, but I just want to refresh everybody's memory. One of the key reasons of zoning law is to keep a certain kind of uniformity in the block. So from 88 South Street to all the way to the conjunction of Flora Street, we are all residential single-family houses. So if, for whatever reason, this house, this property is turned to from a single family to a two-family, then that uniformity is broken. In my opinion, that is contradictory to the zoning bylaw, and I hope the board considering it. And also, may I, through the Madam Board, ask Mr. Garcia a question?
Certainly.
Maybe I missed it, yeah. So when did he start the work on the garage? Does he recall?
I don't recall, no.
I'm sorry?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Because as many of us here aware that his contractor building permit, no, license expired on August 8th, 2023. I just want to bring that to the board's attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have to add something to it.
1 minute. Sir, is it new information for us?
Yes, one more.
Okay.
Mr. Garcia, Peter Gray, 139 again. Mr. Garcia said, one, there was water in the garage, but also I talked to the real estate agent that sold him the house, and she said when it was actually sold to him, it was told him perfectly that the house was a single-family house, even though it was marked as a two-family, because at that point she had already talked to the family about it, and that the garage was not an apartment, and he went and through and did all this work to it. So just to clarify, and the same thing is, there was a step up to get into the garage. There was no water problem in the garage before then. I did help them move stuff out, so the garage was in good shape at that point, but with no water getting in. Now, from what I hear, because it's in the bank and the way they did it, that's why there's water getting into the new section and maybe the original part of the garage. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wish to be heard? Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Madam Chair, just a point of order.
Yes.
I wonder, I would be interested in hearing Mr. Garcia's response regarding his
Oh.
construction supervisor license.
I apologize.
So, as part of this issue is I have a family issues, and I have been traveling back and forth. And to respond a few of the questions, yes, I know the construction is not proper done, so the construction is not the way it's supposed to be. And for working with the building department, so they're gonna instruct to me what I need to do to put it back the building as the way it's supposed to be. And regarding my license, it's also because I have been traveling back and forth. I didn't have a chance to renew my license. My birthday is August 8th, and I was traveling all this time, so I didn't have a chance to do the 12 hours training that I have to do. And I was trying to do online, but now the state of Massachusetts, they want to do 6 hours live and 6 hours online. So I couldn't have a place to schedule my training during my traveling back and forth. So my traveling also has been having a lot of impacts on my my work, not only on South Street. I do another projects that have been affected because my traveling and my personal issues.
I have a point of clarification with, so I assume a general contractor's license has to be in place in order to sign off on a permit. Is that correct?
That's right, right. So Mr. Garcia and I had a conversation about some options today, but yes, so the permits that are submitted are not valid right now and can't move forward until either Mr. Garcia renews his license and gives us one that is current, or someone else is going to take control of the permits that is licensed.
So I already, I have a conversation with the building department today, and I have a family issue, but because of these things going on, I find a place in Wilmington. They will teach the class 6 hours tomorrow. I will take the class tomorrow, and I do my online training, and I will go to the board in Boston to present all my documentation for them to put my license back in function. And because when my birthday was August 8th, that was the date that our license expired.
Okay. Can I get a motion to close
Can
the
I
public hearing?
suggest one thing, or ask the board, more
You
experienced
want to
board?
close the public hearing first?
Before we get to that.
Okay.
Do us as a board, do we think we need to involve town council, given what was on the tax assessor's plate as the property was listed? And are we opening ourselves up to something if we make a decision now, whether we vote one way or another from either side, asking a question of the validity of what's going on, given that there was a discrepancy of how it was appeared to have been sold, may have been sold, how it was listed towards the town, what it was actually constructed as. There seems to be a lot of questions as to exactly where it stood, and I don't know if proceeding now is the right option.
So my understanding, based on times this has come up before, and Patty, I hope you correct me if I'm wrong. As Patty was describing, the assessor taxes, does the assessment based on what they can see. That has sort of independent significance of what the permits are. And so the fact that it was taxed as a single family or as a two-family may have been incorrect, but it doesn't have a bearing on whether or not, for our purposes here, it's a legal two-family. If there was a misrepresentation in the course of the sale, that would have been between the private parties. But again, I don't think it has an impact on us here. Is that?
Right, yes, what you just stated is correct. And I think that since the Adams family presented this information that we don't have in the building inspector's office, it does seem that the main dwelling was a single-family dwelling, and that the other dwelling may have been in the garage that the assessor picked up. But now we're going back to how they code two dwelling units in separate structures, or a two-family dwelling, so between a 104 and a 109.
Yeah.
So
But that's a tax issue.
it is all a tax issue.
Yeah, miscoded.
But it's pretty clear so we do get this all the time and seem to correct it when it's in the right zoning district, can correct it just by building permit when we don't have to, when the applicant doesn't have to come before this board. But the special permit process is allowed in the Residence A zoning district, so whether it was a single or a two before, he's allowed to present this application. I just did want to make one clarification in the, we were talking about the sequence of how the permitting would go with the garage and then moving forward with the two-family dwelling and the main structure, if the board grants that. It does say in the draft conditions that the garage would have to be taken care of first.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And we will work with you on that.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, in the draft, if you wanted to talk about that, so the conditions, yep.
That, and also with the validity of the, I'm blanking on the license, does that now pose a problem for us if we decide to take a vote and the application then doesn't continue on, or continues on, but there's other issues that arise with the application?
That's going
So-
to fall into her purview.
Oh, yeah, so as I see it, so the license requirement is building code. Moving forward after whatever this board determines is all building code. We do have to make sure whether Mr. Garcia has to give some thought as to which way he's going to move forward. One thing that is also building code is that property has to stay secure. So it has to stay secure and weather tight. And then with that being said, he can make a determination as to how he wants to move forward, and then pursue permits after that, whether someone else, another licensed contractor that Mr. Garcia may partner with goes on to the permit applications, or when Mr. Garcia gets his renewed. It is just the continuing education credits that he has to get, which he's on, so then his license will be renewed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else before we close public hearing?
One
Dave?
question for the town staff. So with the actions that are to be taken with the garage, is there any requirement to address the stormwater issues that the neighbor has brought?
So we will work with the DPW to see if there's a stormwater permit required. However, what we did discuss with Mr. Garcia when we were in the field is that the addition that was put onto the back of the garage, that will have to be removed. He will have to restore the garage to the size that it was before. And then we discussed how the interior would be dismantled and the utilities disconnected so that it is a true garage.
Okay.
So we discussed on the site the process, and so that is all under the building code. So we'll address that with the different inspectors under the building code. And as far as the water goes, I would just bring in the DPW to see if they could, if they have to review anything.
Okay, and you, I had a second question, but you answered it, which pertains to the addition on the back of the garage. Thank you.
Motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, let's talk about how we want to proceed. Peter, do you want to go?
Yeah.
Jump into the pond first?
Sure. So first, I guess I'd say I'm really pleased that folks came out, and I'm always great to see public participation, and I appreciate you being here. I think the way I'm looking at this and thinking about this, having heard this out, the zoning bylaw does allow a structure pre-existing the zoning bylaw as a single family in this district to be converted to a two-family, as long as there are no outward changes to the structure, so long as it meets the criteria for a special permit, which means that there's no issues with nuisance, noise, vibration, odor, traffic, unsightliness, the detriment to the public good. I haven't heard a lot yet that suggests to me that any of those things will be a problem in this instance. It sounds like, and we've seen the plans as well, it sounds like the building is going to be significantly improved. I understand the frustration about the garage. It does sound like it was a misunderstanding. I would want to see the work that was done without a permit on the garage removed, either before or concurrently with any changes to the house. But those are, I think, two separate issues. The building inspectors, I'm sure, will do the great job that they always do of making sure that things are up to code and that things are done properly. And as far as any issues going forward, we have inspections for that reason. So I think where I'm currently landing is based strictly on the zoning bylaw, the rules that are in front of us. It sounds like this is a special permit that could issue, absent major concerns, and I'm interested to hear what the board thinks in terms of things regarding nuisance and things derogating the public good or the purpose of the bylaw. But I don't think that we have the ability to deny someone a permit legally on the basis that in the past they did something without a permit. I think we can condition the issuance of future permits or pending permits on everything being up to snuff and everything being put on a level footing. And I would hope that the applicant would understand that that would be necessary. But other than that, I don't think we have the legal ability to just deny someone a permit because they've done something incorrectly in the past. So I'm interested to hear what the board thinks.
Ann? You're next.
So I appreciate what the neighbors have told us tonight and on the prior hearing. I think it's very good information. And I do echo Peter's thoughts that our scope of review is very, very narrow. Narrow to the point where even all this information about whether it was used as a single family or a two-family, it does appear to become irrelevant when we look at the table which controls this request for special permit. On the other hand, the point that the neighbors made about the purpose of the zoning bylaw and the fact that I'll take it at your word that the majority, if not all of the houses on this section of South Street are single-family homes. And I will take that into consideration. And I also heard a lot more about how this conversion would be a nuisance to the neighborhood by way of traffic. I didn't hear any of that from the petitioner. We are not allowed to take into consideration whether the applicant has done anything wrong in the past, whether he is a good person or a bad person or any kind of person. We're just supposed to look right at the narrow confines of the zoning bylaw. And if we were to move forward on this, I would ask that we condition any special permit application on the applicant bringing the remainder of the subject property into compliance with the zoning bylaw, specifically the garage, and also to keep the property clean, the grass cut, and the property secure during any time that it might be vacant. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Kevin?
If I'm not mistaken, we do have a draft in here that does have
We have conditions
those
that-
conditions that you just outlined on it. But I echo very much your sentiments and Peter, and I don't have any additional comments.
Thank you, David?
Yeah, I put a lot of thought into this, but I won't take up any extra time. Peter and Ann have covered anything that I wanted to say.
Right. I feel the same way. We have such a narrow scope, and I do really appreciate the neighbors' perspectives. It's valuable. You took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of information that we really carefully reviewed. And a lot of it is interesting, but not pertinent to the decision-making that we are required to be making. So I would be inclined to move forward and approve the special permit with the conditions that have been suggested to us, but also do want to acknowledge, we are a neighborhood. You talked about living in Shrewsbury. This never feels good when we have people that are sort of combating one another. And so I would just say, beyond whatever condition we can put on it, just be a good neighbor, do all the things that your neighbors are asking you to do. That would be important. And we might not even be able to condition some of them, but they would fall under just be a good neighbor, so. Okay, with that being said, are we in a position to take a formal vote?
Just to review for our purposes the conditions that we would want, and there are some in the draft. No additional dwelling units permitted on the property without further approval of the Board of Appeals. The existing garage not occupied as a separate dwelling unit without further approval of the Board of Appeals. I would like to add, and I'm interested in what you all think, that the garage should be restored to a compliant condition either before or concurrently with the modification of the main structure.
Just a point of clarification, that is already, that has to happen, is that correct?
Because, because the garage is a zoning violation, both with the addition and the prior use as a dwelling unit, that is a zoning violation, and the building code states that your local zoning you must be in compliance with your local zoning prior to moving, as a requirement to issue a building permit. So the building.
So it's built in, basically.
So the building permit for the conversion of the two-family cannot be issued until we address the zoning violation on the garage by separate building permit.
Gotcha.
It could be brought back to where it needs to be.
Okay.
Which
So in
looks
other
like
words-
number 4, Peter.
Sorry?
Which looks like number 4 on that list, Peter.
I don't
That
have a
last-
number 4. Am I looking
Yeah,
at the wrong
you
one?
have a number 4. Nope.
There's a
There we go.
couple different versions.
Or is it, I'm looking at an old version?
Yep.
So number 4 would be prior to the issuance of a building permit for the construction of an existing single-family structure into a two-family dwelling, the garage must be returned and maintained as a garage only.
Okay, that wasn't on the version I
That
was
would be
looking at.
number 4.
Okay, so there's that one.
And then number 3,
And then number 3, documentation establishing the access easement for the existing driveway and is sufficient to provide vehicular access. Both, and I understand, aside, that there are parking requirements for code for the two families. So we shouldn't have an issue of there being far too many cars and not enough spaces, hypothetically.
Right, it appears so. So the 1.5 parking spaces required per dwelling unit, so there's only 3 parking spaces required. But when all of the officials went for that August 14th visit, we all parked somewhere over there, so we were able to get several vehicles onto the site.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I think I would be comfortable moving forward with those conditions, if the board is.
Yep.
Are we constrained from adding a condition that requires it to be kept clean and secure?
That's part
the
of-
grass cut?
is that not part of, go ahead, Patty.
I'm a little hesitant to say that that can be part of this condition because that is under a separate nuisance bylaw, which is under the general bylaw for the town and not specifically in the zoning bylaw. So I'm just, not exactly sure that you could do that here.
Well, so it would be a condition saying that they have to do something they're required to do anyway. But we're already doing that, I guess, with regard to the additional units, so I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that. How would we want to word that?
That the property be kept clean, secure, free of trash, and free of grass that would violate the bylaw. Do we have an inch limit?
So,
Okay, just
We-
grass cut.
Grass cutting compliance with the bylaw.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that we have it inches, but there is something to that language though in the general bylaw.
There is. I've looked
Yeah.
it up before.
Okay. Should I take a crack at it?
Let's try it.
Okay. So I move to approve a special permit under Section 6, Table 1 of the Shrewsbury zoning bylaw for property located at 147 to 151 South Street with the following conditions. 1, that the special permit specifically authorizes the modification of the existing single-family structure into a two-family dwelling with no exterior modifications. No additional dwelling units shall be permitted on the property without further approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals. 2, the existing garage shall not be occupied as a separate dwelling unit without further approval of the Zoning Board of Appeals. 3, prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit, the applicant shall provide the planning department with documentation establishing the access easement for the existing driveway. An access easement agreement sufficient to provide vehicular access to 143 South Street and 147 through 151 South Street shall be maintained for the life of the two-family use and shall be provided to the planning department. 4, prior to the issuance of a building permit for the construction of the existing single-family structure into a two-family dwelling, the garage must be returned and maintained as a garage only. And 5, during construction, the property shall remain free of trash, secure, and have grass cut in compliance with the bylaw.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So moved. Thank you. May I ask you to sign the Mullins agreement? Yes, please. This is just proof that they listened to the prior hearing and are able to sit on the hearing. Yeah, sure.
That's a condition.
I could get a copy of this, because it's the only one I have. It's there, and then she signed it on the second page. It was in 1941.
Okay, there's a patience award that will be given out at the end of this meeting for those of you still left in this room. Okay, moving on to our next public hearing. Okay, this is to hear the appeal of Nicholas T. Soder, 33 Topsfield Circle, Shrewsbury, Mass., for a special permit to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 7B, to construct a second-floor addition to a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling upon property located at 33 Topsfield Circle in the Residence A zoning district. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 40, Plot 108000. Welcome, please state your name for the record.
My name's Nick Soder.
Hi, Nick. Can you tell us a little bit about your project?
Looking just to put a second floor on. I did a addition with a big garage with a second floor, I don't know, probably almost 20 years ago. And I just want to make the house kind of look normal now.
Is that a building code thing?
No.
House must look normal.
Right, make that a condition.
I don't know if you guys got the blueprints.
We, hang on, we're trying to get ourselves back into where we need to be. Give us 1 second. Okay. We do have plans, yes. It would be helpful for you to just describe to us a little bit more detail about, so you're putting an addition.
Yeah, I'll have a master bedroom upstairs and 2 other bedrooms. On the first floor now, there's just 2 bedrooms, and then I just got a bonus room above the garage.
Okay. Ms. O'Neill, anything?
No, I have no comments.
Okay, thank you. Peter, questions?
No, it's within the same limits of the existing dwelling. I don't have a problem with
Anne?
So just one thing, I think somewhere in the file, it was noted that there's no certificate of occupancy for the garage
Yep.
from 2005.
2005, GM Bergeron, they pulled my permit, so I'll have to try to figure it out. If not, you know, sure, we'll just have whoever's gonna inspect the frame or whatever, just has to look at it, right? Just, no idea.
Well, by convenience sake, we have the building inspector here
Right.
with us, so she'll be sure to make sure to,
I'm pretty sure, I think you were there, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, 20.
it. It was
So-
Ron Allery, I think.
Ron Ellery was there, Tom O'Connor was there, the electrical.
So what we could do is the addition for the garage with the
Yep.
bonus room above, that's where we can't locate a certificate of occupancy.
Okay.
So as you move forward with the permitting for
Yep.
the second floor,
Good.
we may just have to get final
Everybody come
inspections
over or whatever.
on the area above the garage.
Yep,
Okay?
yep.
So we can work with you on
I
that?
figured that, you know what I'm saying, so.
Yeah.
So they're out of business, GM Bergeron. They went out of business like 5 years ago, so.
So what we'll do is establish that rough inspections took place for all of the plumbing, if it's present,
Yeah.
electrical, and building.
Right.
And then we can move forward with final inspections in that area so that we can
Okay.
get you a certificate of occupancy for everything.
It's already sheet rocked, you know what I'm saying? Everything's kind of done. So, no bedrooms up there or anything like that.
Right, so on the plan it says bonus room.
Yeah.
So that's what we would be
That's all it is.
verifying and inspecting.
Right, right.
But we can,
Yeah.
like I said, we can work with you as you get the permit for the second floor addition.
Right, okay.
Thanks, nothing further.
Kevin?
Nope, I'm good.
David?
No question.
Okay. This is, I have no questions at all. This is pretty standard at this point. Anybody wish, this is a public hearing? Anybody wish to be heard on the matter? Okay. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Might I,
I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve a special permit under Section 7B to construct a second-floor addition on a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling at 33 Topsfield Circle in the Residence A District.
can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Quick question, how long about does it usually take?
20
days.
20 days.
Okay. And what about like issuing the building permit?
We can talk to you offline about that, too.
Okay. I was just curious, you know, I'm hoping to stop by October 15th. If I don't, I just want to rather wait until the springtime. So is that special permit still going to be good in April?
Yeah.
So we can explain the details to you, but yes,
Okay.
after the decision is filed with the clerk's office, There's a 20-day appeal period from there.
Okay,
You can start submitting your building permit application, so
Yep.
the documents can be reviewed in compliance with the building code.
Yep.
So if we have any questions about framing, insulation, all of that,
Right.
we'll get that done.
Yep.
And reviewed for you. And then, in the meantime, the inspector assigned to your permit
Yep.
will help you address the bonus room.
Okay,
Okay?
perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, final 6:30 hearing. This is to hear the appeal of William Stein, 18 Quail Hollow Drive, Shrewsbury, Mass. For a variance to the Shrewsbury zoning bylaws, Section 7B, Table 2, to build a garage 5 4/10 feet from the rear yard setback upon property located at 18 Quail Hollow Drive in the Rural A zoning district. The subject premise is described on the Shrewsbury Assessor's Tax Plate 54, Plot 155000. State your name for the record, please.
William Stein from 18 Quail Hollow.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is David Sadowski. I'm the principal of DJ and Associates. We're out of Clinton, Massachusetts. And I'm here representing Mr. Stein on this proposed garage location plan that we submitted.
Great. Tell us a little bit about what you plan on doing.
Sure. When I first met with Blaine, he looked at the backyard about putting a garage in. He's got multiple vintage Porsche automobiles that are stored at different locations all around town. Some of them are even in metal containers so they can't be touched or whatever. And he said it'd be nice if I could put them on my property. I basically hardly ever use them. They're not like a use all the time, but it'd be great to have them. We actually have, if I could,
Yeah, go ahead.
some photos of what the garage would look like. He's got the idea, he belongs to a Porsche racing club, and there's another member that has one that stores four of the automobiles.
Thank you.
And they're able in the wintertime to turn the lights on, to show the cars. They're more like a display case to put them in and be safe. He's got a man cave in the back where he's got a pizza oven, the neighbors come over. He's got a koi pond, he's got a waterfall, he's got some other stuff down there. They're kind of shown in the front of the picture. But this was the idea he got, where he could actually put four of the vehicles and have them somewhere where they would be safe and secure. So what he did was, he asked me to do the survey work and put in the rear property line. And when I did, we saw how much land was left. The problems that he has is it's a irregularly shaped lot. It's got a it's got a drain easement that runs down the side of it. It's got a wetlands issue on the other side, and it's got a slope topography, which is great. All that being said, he actually approached the town to see if he could take and sell or transfer some of the wetland land to the town, and then they could convey the land behind where the garage would go. Then he wouldn't need any type of a special permit. He would be able to meet the setback. But found out that would have to go to town vote. It would have to be brought before the people because it's owned by the town of Shrewsbury, not by an individual in the town. So the town planner had said that, so we submitted paperwork. So what we're doing, we're trying to submit paperwork to show a garage that would be located 5.4 feet from the rear property line. As you can see, he's gonna be putting, it's gonna be $250,000 for the garage anyways. It's gonna enhance the property, it's gonna enhance the other ones, and I don't think it's gonna become a nuisance. It's not gonna cause a traffic problem. Cars are hardly ever used. The easement that goes up through is access also, and it will remain grass, so there won't be extra impervious put in. The cars will basically be put in there and stored in this building. So he's really appealing to the town to see if it would be possible to do this, to put that structure there, and then he can bring some of the vehicles in. He does have some pictures of those vehicles too in his garage, when occasionally when he does bring them over to give them a tune-up or do whatever it is to them. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. O'Neill, any further information?
No, that sums
That
it up.
sums it up? Okay. Peter?
So I think that was a very good statement of why a variance makes sense. You've got topography, you've got wet area, you've got the easement, you've got existing structures. There's a lot of boxes checked there. Piece that I want to ask planning or ask town folks about here is the land area minimum requirements. So this structure will exceed that minimum. What do you typically have to find for a variance to exceed that minimum? It's sort of like hard to, what would be the typical criteria for something like that? Because the overall size of the lot is independent of things like, does the lot slope, or are there wet areas? How do we make that decision?
So you mean, you're asking, is there a certain percentage of the lot that if it falls into the criteria about wetlands, slope, topography, that the easement runs through, if it's,
Right, do we like subtract that and say, well, if this wasn't there, then there would be enough room or something like that? Or I'm just trying to figure out how we find a hardship for that piece. It's just not something that's come up very often before for us.
sometimes what I say when an applicant comes in and someone just, maybe they have a lot that isn't as challenging as this one, and they just want a structure in a certain location, just because, and you have to say, well, you have to figure out meet the variance criteria. This one doesn't appear to be just because obviously they have the sewer easement and everything else that we just said. So I look at it that way. When you look at the lot and you put the topography on it, and then you look at wetlands or septic system, or this one of course doesn't have a septic system, or an easement, and you say, where else could it go that it would be in compliance? Are there options for it to be in compliance? And that's how I look at it when I'm making a judgment. For this one right now, there doesn't seem to be a lot of places to be or any place to be in compliance.
Well, right, that's sort of what I mean, is if it's about, we're using too much of the available land area, it doesn't matter where you put it on the parcel, it's too big. But I think it's a very easy question as to the distance from the rear yard. I don't know where else you'd put it, based on all the obstacles you have there.
Just one thing is that I think we may have it in the draft decision, but the shed, right? The shed shown on the plan, and it does say that the shed would be relocated, but the shed is in violation of the zoning bylaw. And so with this project, the shed will be relocated to be in compliance, is from what I understand. Right?
Through
Were you
the chair, that is correct. I also had another point to make concerning lot coverage. There are calculations on the plan that talk about lot coverage that can be on that certain lot in that certain area, and it does, even with the 484 square foot addition of this building, a 22 by 22 proposed standalone garage, meet the requirements of lot coverage. It doesn't exceed.
Yep, thank you. I'm just seeing that. It's helpful.
Yeah, and that note is on there, I think it's note 7, that
Yep.
talks about the shed is to be moved.
Okay.
And that would be to an area that conforms to zoning. I guess maybe there wasn't enough, that plan's pretty small, and there's not a lot of room to put, I'm a perfectionist, and I could have 3 lines on that, just moving the shed, but it will be put in an area that conforms to zoning.
Okay.
That could be part of the decision, obviously.
Anything else, Peter?
No, that's all for me.
Ann?
No, I don't have anything.
Kevin?
I guess my one concern is how are, I know vehicles don't, these vehicles aren't coming on and off the property consistently, but when they are, how are you proposing moving around your house?
I'll answer. Through the chair, if I could answer the question.
Sure.
That easement is 25 feet long for the drainage.
Yeah.
And it's an access also, so they would be going up and down that access. The cars would actually enter on the back side of this. You would just see the glass on the front 3 sides of this building.
Yeah.
The access is in the rear, so it would come down, and it would swing in, it would back up, and it would go back down the drainage easement.
So is the white birch that's listed on this plan, is that coming out as well?
Right now, it doesn't have to, because he still has additional room on the side of, if one of the branches, or it has to be cut back.
So I guess that's my question. Is there enough room to move around the car? You could have a great relationship with your neighbor, and you could say, oh, just drive it over the lawn, don't care. But if you were ever to get a neighbor that didn't accept that, so I just wanted to make sure there was enough room to get around. It's still behind your
Blaine, through the chair.
Sure.
Blaine is, he says that if you want the white birches cut, he will. If you want them to stay, he can.
No, if you
It's
feel you can
really-
get around,
it's really like
that's fine.
this room.
I'm-
They're like
I'm
2
not
or
gonna worry
3 inch
about it.
diameter white birches that are there. There's like
Okay.
5 of them.
Okay.
So that's why I just.
I'm not concerned about it. Thank you.
It's not a big tree.
David?
No questions. You just managed to come up with an idea that, when I was a kid, I had a Hot Wheels display in my room. You've managed to do that with, actual Hot Wheels. So,
Blaine has, through the chair, Blaine has a letter when he was 8 years old to the builder of Porsche automobiles that he wanted to someday be able to store them in a garage at his house.
Yeah.
He shared it with me.
No questions.
Wow. It's a complicated site plan, I might add.
Yeah, there's a lot
It took a lot of focus to figure out what the heck was going on.
Well, the one thing I wanted to do, Madam Chair, was make sure I delineated the trees that were there, none are to be removed. The wetland flags that are there, the topography of the area. I was trying to show the pizza oven location that you can see in the front now a lot easier. And then there's a little waterfall next to that. I don't know if you did a site visit.
Yep.
Or anyone did, but that's
Yep.
around the back and, and then it's, with COVID and with everything else that may happen in the future, it's a great idea to have everything centrally located, family located, decks put on, additions, parents brought back, things like that. With the cost to go into nursing or other homes, $1,000 a day. I can see in-law apartments for in-laws, for your parents coming back to live at home like we were as kids. And you'd be able to care for your loved ones. I don't want to get choked up because I hear them say, oh, we'll never allow an in-law apartment. What if your parents needed to come back? What if they needed to be somewhere? Like we saw the grandfather living in the garage.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, good point. No, I want to commend you on your site plan. I mean, we don't see, often we're trying to figure out what is going on. You have totally explained everything that's going on, so that's really helpful.
Thank you very much.
And I do think, in my opinion, you've met all the criteria for a variance. So, that being said, I don't see a full room, although we do have one last participant, so if anyone would like to be heard on this matter, okay, that's a no.
It's a female survey rod person, so we have
I see.
females on the survey crew.
Okay. Well, I would also say, I mean, if you ever decide to open this up for public viewing, we will all be there.
Serving pizza before.
Your neighbors
before the-
probably love you. I don't see a whole lot of them here, but the pizza oven, the waterfall, the koi pond, very interesting. So congratulations. We've seen a lot come in front of this board. This is a first. This is a first. But all of that aside, you're here to apply for a variance. I personally feel like you meet the criteria for a variance. I'm prepared to move forward with the vote if I could. We do need to close the public hearing.
Yep. I move to close the public hearing.
Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Let's proceed forward. We do have some conditions there that we need to
Yep.
insert.
Yeah, and I misunderstood. On the application, I thought you were looking for relief from the lot coverage, but now I see you're saying that it's compliant with the lot coverage. So, okay. So, I move to grant a special permit under Section 6, Table 1 of the Shrewsbury zoning bylaw for property located at, whoops, it says the wrong address, 18 Quail Hollow Drive in the Rural A District, subject to the following conditions. Oh, wait, this one doesn't have conditions yet.
Yeah, I don't have any
We don't
proposed
have
conditions
Oh,
at the
Okay.
moment.
So not
because-
subject to any
well,
conditions.
Yeah.
we don't have any. Or we don't feel like we need any.
Do we?
Or is that
No.
correct?
You.
Okay.
Okay, well, there we go.
Sorry.
I spoke.
Okay. So that's it then. That's the whole thing.
All right. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. I know you guys are elected or you're appointed, you don't get paid, and something you have
We are
to
not
put up with
elected.
week
Thankfully,
after
we are
week,
appointed.
Month
But
after month.
Thank you for your patience, certainly.
So this is, I did show him. I was 8 years old.
Oh, it's a real letter.
Oh,
I wrote an essay when I was a little kid. So I played with cars.
could you send that to the planning board? I think we all want to read that.
You mentioned the Targa top in there or no?
That's great. Congratulations for fulfilling your childhood dreams. That's awesome.
What are the four Porsches?
So it starts off with the 2022 GP3.
Yep.
Goes all the way back to a 70 911S.
Nice.
So it's the whole.
The road, like a range in there? Yeah, very good.
Well, we now know where you work, so we'll be
Blaine-
visiting you
Blaine
at
also-
work.
Blaine also races. Share with me some of the pictures from his racing days, too.
Yeah, it's, like I said, I played with cars for quite a long time. I didn't know, I loved the lot, I loved the neighborhood, my neighbors are awesome. And it's just like,
That's great.
I just didn't know if I could do anything. It's like, there might be something we could do here. And then I started seeing some inspirational pictures. I was like, I thought about it for a while.
That's great. Well, congratulations, you got it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you too.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
We have new business.
We have new
Oh,
business.
well, we can, sorry.
Right.
Yep, we have a lot to talk about, but we can make it quick. We need to discuss, give me 1 second, I gotta find my notes. So for new business, first off, we need to sign off on the bond for the Point at Hills Farm comprehensive permit. This is very administrative in nature, but we're gonna need everyone's signature on this. And is there 2 copies? Or
There
just
is.
one?
I think you just need one.
Well, there's,
I just printed two.
okay. So you,
We
that's extra.
received the checks this week, so this is purely to.
Great. All right, and then moving along, we have a new action item to review and act on updated zoning board of appeals rules and regulations, which I know took a lot of time from the planning department, and we're gonna take a look at that on the screen in front of us. I know we all had a chance to review the redlined changes, and so if you wanna give us an update on those, that would be great.
Sure. 1 second. There we go. So, just going back a little bit, we have, with planning board and zoning board, gone online for our applications. So this, update for the ZBA rules and regs would then reflect that and whether or not we need, paper copies and, electronic version only for site plans and the application itself. And this would still, comply. It would still have a timestamp from the clerk when it's accepted and, applied for. And then it would just then open up other approval steps with, the building, planning, et cetera. You would still see the site plans and still receive all of the materials needed for a regular application, but we just needed to reflect that here. So I don't know how you would like me to go through this.
We've all reviewed it, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Any
there-
specific questions anybody has?
No, that was a fair summary, I think, of the changes. We also changes the terminology from Board of Selectmen to Select Board.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. Just a couple minor, things of that nature. The application form itself, this one was fun to go through with Patty, Kristen, and Chris to nail down. But if there's no other specific questions,
I mean, it's so important that these are correct when we need to go back, and look at them really carefully. So I applaud you for going through every word and getting it right. So I would just comment that it's, to me, it's done well, and it looks like there was a lot of hands involved in it, which helps get the work done the right way. So I don't have any further comments.
okay.
So do we vote to, do we need
No,
a motion, or is it just
That's just review.
just
Do we have-
review?
I would vote to adopt the new regulations, and I will print out a fresh copy for the clerk to sign.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I move to approve the updated Zoning Board of Appeals rules and regulations.
Can I get a second?
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Before we adjourn, I would like to thank Ms. Sheehan for attending this meeting. It was a really detailed, technical meeting, and we needed assistance, and you provided it for us, and we thank you very much for that. So
You're welcome.
thanks for your time. On that note, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Getting ahead of myself there.